In this episode of Another Zelda podcast, David and Shane get together to build a top 10 list of the most monumental moments in Zelda history. Hello and welcome to Another Zelda podcast. I'm David, your host tonight, and I am joined yet again by our guest co-host, Shane Kelley.
Hello.
Hi, Shane.
I'm back again.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I'm excited about today's topic. We're going to do a top 10 list of monumental moments. Now, this topic we've had in the queue for seasons. I think, what we do is as a group, I don't know if I've ever really talked about this on the show or not, but you, Celeste, the Coons, myself, Andy, there's a
Carlos.
Carlos is in there. That we have a kind of like a group thread that we contribute episode ideas to.
Yep.
And this one, top 10 monumental moments, was like buried. I think you kind of pitched this idea, honestly, 2-3 years ago.
I almost forgot about it when you texted me it, and I'm like, that does sound familiar.
Well, you know what it was?
Probably was.
When we were talking about getting together today, you had texted a couple ideas, and they were all good, and we are going to keep them on the list and everything. But it was Celeste in a production meeting. She was like, "Oh, monumental moments would be good," and she's, "I think that was a Shane submission." And so when I floated it your way, you were like, "All right, cool, let's do it."
Yeah.
Top 10 monumental moments. So we're going to do listener feedback in just a minute. But monumental moment, we did have to build a few rules. I actually texted you about a week ago, and I said, "Okay, wait a second. Are we is this monumental moments in universe, in canon, or is it monumental moments in the Zelda franchise from game development? Like, what's our take?" And I think if I understood correctly, we're going in-game, we're going canon, we're going story beats.
Yep. And our own personal, I think, too, as well for monumental moments, which may or may not be yours.
I do think I have some on here that are personal, personally were monumental for me.
Yes.
And that's fine. So, listener feedback. Let's do that. Let's get on into listener feedback. I've got it right here up on my computer. I'm reading it from a slightly different place than I normally do. Here we go. We have 5 today, and one is over on YouTube. Blake Bartels, on our Ocarina of Time episode, says, "This podcast is perfect. I've been binging it all day, every day, at work for the past week. Ocarina of Time is easily my favorite game in the series. I've beaten it 28 times and counting. Wow. And you can probably guess that this was my first Zelda game ever played. You talked about the Shadow Temple quote, and I thought personally that it almost had a reference to every man boat that leads to Hades in Greek mythology." Oh, right. I think this might have been a typo. I think we're talking about the boat, not a quote. And or maybe it's a quote on the boat. "And if you ever revisit Ocarina of Time in another episode, I'd love to try and help you with anything, or if you'd understand some part of it. Thanks again, and can't wait to continue listening."
If you have a binge problem, that's a good binge problem to have. Watching the podcast, playing Zelda.
Blake, maybe I could reach out to Blake sometime and have him write a couple questions for a quiz episode or something.
Yeah, that
are
would be good.
Ocarina based. That'd be kind of neat. Anyways, thank you so much, Blake. We're going to move on to another YouTube comment. This is for A Link to the Past episode that Kate and I recorded as the season finale for Season 2.
Okay.
Season 2, Episode 25. And this is Erica Stein. And Erica says, "I've been thinking about a live-action Zelda movie, and I just can't bring myself to think it's a good idea. I would say that if there was a movie, it should be animated in the Studio Ghibli art style like Princess Mononoke. The only actor I can think of to be a live-action cast would be Evan Peters as Link." Evan Peters, are you familiar?
I
might Google him real quick.
Not.
Evan Peters as Link, though I think it would have to be a complete cast of unknown actors. As far as Link speaking, I can see it working if they create a spoken language for Hylian, like we saw in the Lord of the Rings movies, and it's in subtitles. Weird, kind of cool.
Yeah.
Though then that brings up other regional dialects for any other races like the Zora and the Gerudo. Well, I mean, a deep dive like that would be kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Because what is it, like in Star Wars, people speak English because they speak, quote unquote, they speak basic, is like how we get around it.
Yeah.
We all know that no one's really speaking English, but they're just going with it. In Zelda, I think English is spoken.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's called English or not. It's not like, are there ever races or characters that speak Now again, this would be through text boxes, not audio,
Yeah.
in a different language in a Zelda game.
Besides, I'm just thinking like even the Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 trailer with the words and
Yeah.
Hylian. Besides seeing that kind of text and maybe words in various Zelda games, I don't think I've ever heard anybody.
Yeah, you're touching on a really interesting point here. There are 4 or 5 in canon, I don't know, serifs of or fonts or typefaces
Yep.
of languages,
Mm-hmm.
but they all relate 1-to-1 to an English alphabet.
Yes.
So it's really just like a code key,
Yeah.
just to make it look nice. But anyway, I kind of like the idea. Maybe maybe the idea would be, so when we hear Link in a Zelda, I think what Eric is kind of speaking to here is that when we hear Link in a Zelda game and he goes ooh ah ooh ooh, and he kind of makes his noises, we get a sense of his personality, but we don't have to hear him say actual words.
Yes.
I know you're reading some of the manga right now. In fact, before we started recording, you shared a bunch of them with me. He talks nonstop in the mangas, but I guess you're imagining his voice.
Yes, and I was going to say I wrote an article called "The Sound of Silence."
Yes, you did indeed.
And that pretty much goes over his language without the use of language, and how the art style, like Wind Waker, and different facial expressions and sounds he makes, is how he gets by, and how Nintendo through Link tells you the story.
I agree. Yeah, that was The Sound of Silence, which is one of our articles on our website, Another Zelda Podcast.
Yep.
AnotherZeldaPodcast.com. Well, Erica, I think this is a great idea. As far as something in the style of Studio Ghibli, I'm on board.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm on board.
I think it looked wonderful.
Yeah,
in that kind
I
of
like
style.
that style. Yeah. We'll have to see what the art style of this new Mario movie coming out is going to be. I have a concept. I don't think I need to see Hyrule rendered that way.
I'm thinking Minions, or something along those
Well,
lines.
it's that company. It's what, Illumination or whatever doing it. Anyways, I love that. That's great. William West. Oh, we got a lot of YouTubes. And then we finished with 2 Apple Podcasts. William West over on our top 10 Zelda fandom projects, which was an episode that myself and Dan McCoy did in the early parts of season 4.
Love that episode.
I loved it too. In retrospect, in hindsight, after we did it, when he came to me with that idea, I was very scared. I was kind of like, I don't know how we're going to talk about this stuff for 2 hours, but it was a great episode.
Yeah,
a lot of cool
agreed.
finds. Anyways, top 10 Zelda fandom projects, and to say top 10 is almost like unfair. There's thousands of awesome Zelda fandom things out there.
We could just say top monumental moments. Something along.
We'll just have to
We
return.
don't have to cap ourselves.
We're going to have to start volumizing these things like we do with the Hey Listen episodes. Top 10 Zelda Fandom Projects Volume 2. But anyway, William West here says, oh, this is interesting. Something, okay. I think this is a plug for something, but still, it could be cool. William West says, y'all should check out It's Dangerous to Go Alone, in quotes. It's a tabletop RPG built in the Zelda world. They've built a bunch of races and enemies from Zelda into the game and made the stats all revolve around the 3 base virtues: power, courage, and wisdom. This is sounding awesome.
Yes.
They've even written a storyline for it, so you can hop right in without too much prep, or you can make your own story to play with your friends. I've recently started DMing a campaign. I wrote with some of my friends, and we've been having a blast. Love the podcast. I have been listening since season 1, and as a lifelong Zelda fan, I found it very entertaining. Keep doing what you're doing. William West, thanks.
Thank
He's
you.
one of the OG listeners.
I like that.
I love that. So we've heard a little bit. There are, you'll hear little pepperings out there about Zelda-based RPGs.
Yeah.
This one apparently is called It's Dangerous to Go Alone. I wonder if that's just Googleable or not. I guess it's kind of that. If you do that, then we're just going to get a bunch of Zelda quotes. But anyway, I digress. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Tabletop RPG. Shane, I haven't mentioned this to anyone yet, but as of this recording, last night, I participated in my first round of a D&D campain with a group of people. Alex Sheehan, who's been on a couple episodes in the early days of this, he's DMing a campaign, and myself and 3 other friends we're a tribe of 4.
Okay.
And it's not Zelda related. That'd be a ton of fun. But he texted me a few weeks ago and he said, how do you feel about being in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign? Dungeons, that's hysterical. Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I said, well, I'll do the dungeons, but no dragons. Is what
I was going to say.
But I literally replied to him. I said, Alex, I have been waiting 25 years for someone to send me a text like this.
You know, it's interesting. I went to school for video game design, and one of the classes, we had to pick a team, and each team had jobs, and we had to make a Dungeons and Dragons book.
Okay.
And I've got like a 114-page Dungeons and Dragons fully playable book that I've never played myself, because I haven't played with anybody. I've played it before, but I haven't played this particular one. And it's got art. We even had people come play test it. We had a guy who was our in the group, was our lawyer, and had to look up all the legalities, and the name wasn't used and all that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, William West, I'd love to learn a little bit more about It's Dangerous to Go Alone. That's cool. There's a few other RPG campaigns out there that have contacted us. One of them, I'm sorry, this is off the cuff. I don't have notes on this, but they stream their campaign.
I saw that.
Someone reached out on a comment or something. Did you see that too?
Yeah.
Maybe I have to tweet about it to try to follow up with this, but that looked really cool too. Anyways, I'm having a blast with it. My character, I don't want to get us too far off, but my character is... I had to do it. He's his own character, but he's Link-esque. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Not there's no Zelda universe in our campaign, but he's Link-esque. Maybe a little, honestly, maybe a little less heroic, actually.
Okay.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy, but he's more of like a hunter. So, for example, last night we were battling some goblins, and my character had not seen combat before.
Okay.
The closest he came to combat would be like hunting a deer, and It came to be that my character kept having to roll Constitution to make sure that he didn't Ralph. And my wood elf, who's super intelligent, super dexterous, but low charisma and low Constitution.
Okay.
He was puking all over the place.
Maybe you change your weapon to acid reflex or something.
He got stronger. When we got to the inn, he rested. Like, I literally lost life points from like watching a goblin be destroyed.
Maybe you'll have to pick up some Pepsid AC or something from the local shop.
Well, it was all in the dice. I let the dice tell the story. The dice told the story of this guy being a little bit of a wimp when it comes to combat. But he did recon. He's a ranger and all that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm going with like a nerdy wood elf. But by the time we had a little bit of combat later on in the campaign, luck was with me and my dice rolls were a little higher. So the narrative was such that he was getting used to things.
Okay.
And so we'll see where that goes. It was an absolute blast.
That sounds amazing. Oh, happy for you. That sounds good.
I was a little nervous to take it on because of just life is pretty busy right now.
Yep.
With all the 6x
stuff. It is a commitment. So.
Well, I mentioned it to Ginksy. I said, "This is if I said I really want to do. I've wanted to do this. I've always wanted to be in a D&D campaign, and But it's like playing, I guess, like league basketball or league bowling or it's like you kind of have a team and you're making a commitment because everyone can't play unless everyone's there, kind of thing.
I remember during Christmas when me and my brothers were all in college that they would play Civilization.
Okay.
And they'd play for days, and half the time they didn't finish it. But it's a huge campaign, and that's what they did in it. Now we can play on Steam. There's a board game simulator, tabletop simulator.
I've used tabletop simulator.
Yep, and we play on there now.
Nice.
We've got people. One brother's in Japan, another one's in North Carolina, one's in by Milwaukee, and one was in Minnesota, and now is over here. But we all play on there. So
I love that. And we did mention once in a while if we really had, like, Alex, the DM, was awesome. He had a full cardboard map drawn out and mapped out. We have scales and guides, 5 miles for this and all that kind of stuff.
And it's good to have a great dungeon master. Really brings out the game.
All of us have. No, I'm getting way too far off, but I'm gushing. I apologize.
It's a monumental moment in Dungeons & Dragons history.
In David history. All 5 of us have theater backgrounds. So
there you go.
When we do our dialogue scenes, we go full improv with it, and it's a lot of fun. It's really cool. And anyways, so to pull it all back in, and then we can move on. Thank you so much, West. So Ginksy works for. She's a manager at a tech company.
Yep.
And she's very busy. and so she and her peers focus on work-life balance a lot because sometimes it can be hard to obtain, have that balance. Let's just put it this way: when you're a manager and you're dealing with big things like stuff, sometimes fires can just take priority, and so keeping that balance is really important. So anyway, so I think she kind of like she has to deal with these ideas a lot, and she oftentimes has to find ways to have social events in her life to have her work-life balance.
Sure.
So I said, "Hun, I think I really want to do this, but I don't know. I kind of think I should say no, just because this is a real commitment. It's going to be once a night every week." And I said, I'm already really busy with 6-5, and as you know, I'm already busy with this school stuff.
Yeah.
And so there are nights in our relationship, to get personal for a second, there are nights where she and I probably would prefer to go have a date somewhere, but like I've got to do some producing stuff.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then in reverse, there are times where she has to do her job, and we probably would like to go on a date, but whatever. Well, she says to me, it was like the nicest thing, but it was so simple that I've heard, and this is why I'm absolutely in love with her. She goes, "Well, David, you know how much I value social interactions." It was like this like corporate kind of like speak, but it was totally authentic. And I said, "Okay, hon, I'm doing Dungeons and Dragons."
It's like you went to HR and they gave you the approval.
Yeah. So she said, "I think this is good. I think this is healthy. This is a social engagement."
That's like a couple of years ago, I joined Axe Throwing League.
Yeah.
And it was my wife who said I should go do something. And then, of course, in February 2020, I couldn't play anymore. They stopped having it. However, I signed back up and I start next Tuesday.
Nice.
So I'll be back with my original teammate. Our name is Axes and Allies.
Love it.
I absolutely love the name, and I can't wait to play and talk to people again. So.
Oh, that sounds great. You always had some nice, was it Instagram posts or Twitter posts? There was stuff. You put videos
on both.
You get a couple bullseyes out there and stuff. It was really cool.
It was that if you guys have never tried it, go and try it at least once. It changed my life, social interaction and playing a sport and beer. There's lots of beer.
It's a heck of a lot of fun.
So,
I've only done it socially, or like where you just like get a group of friends together and try it. Love it. Anyways,
and I'm not a competitive person, so this it's weird for me to actually play something that's competitive and to be good at it, because I think I've gone 3 or 4 times out of the 5 times I've played, we went to the finals, and I've won twice out of the 3 times we got to the finals. Hey,
good for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. We are literally having a different podcast than AZP at this point.
Yes.
It's an absolute blast though. And that was my fault. I told a big old story with this Dungeons and Dragons thing. The axe throwing is exciting. You can kind of throw axes in Breath of the Wild, but it's that sideways throw thing. But anyway, Ricardo Mata over here on YouTube said, on our episode, The Hyrule Fantasy, which was the behind-the-scenes episode of the first Legend of Zelda. It was an episode about the making of the first Legend of Zelda.
I think that's the first time you referenced me in the show.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Did we have your listener feedback on that? Episode 14?
It was that or...
It probably was.
It might have been, yeah.
Episode 14 would have been, if I'm doing my math correctly, would have been probably the 4th time that Kate and I got together to record.
Yep.
Because we would record them in batches back then. Anyway, so Ricardo Mata says, discovered this 5 days ago, and I'm listening to at least 2 a day. This episode so far is my favorite, though the items episode was a close second. I remember spending so much time playing the first game when I was young, visiting friends who also played the game to see how they did it all. Looking forward to catching up on all your episodes. Hope this goes on forever.
Me too.
I'm okay with it going on forever too.
Nintendo keep making games. We keep talking about it.
Keep talking about it. That's great. Well, I'm going to just do one more, then we'll get out of here. World building. Oh, this is a recent one. These are all YouTube comments this time around. World building. The world building episode from season 4, episode 11. So this is the penultimate episode of season 4.
It's only 2 episodes ago, right? Yeah.
Well, as of this recording, it was 2 episodes ago, but as of this coming out, it was like 6 or 7 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Anyways, Franco Peralta here says, I could buy. Yeah, so you and I are recording this episode kind of in between season 4 and season 5 hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, it hasn't come out.
It is a cold day. It is like 12 degrees out right now in the middle of January as we record this. I could buy the idea. Oh, this is about. So in that world building episode, Shane, you may or may not recall that we chatted a little bit about the idea of Breath of the Wild being quote unquote reality, and all the other games are just legends that exist inside Breath of the Wild. So to that point, Frank Peralta says, I could buy that idea of Breath of the Wild being reality, and all the games prior were just legends or tales spoken by people. I presumably like in that reality of Breath of the
Mhm.
Wild. Heck, looking back at that game, they kind of have already in moments. What I don't buy is that Breath of the Wild won't be treated the same way eventually. That everything before was just interpretations, and that Breath of the Wild won't eventually be someone's interpretation of a future game, especially when there have been deviations from those stories involving some of the same heroes, and Breath is so steeped in freedom, and games prior have already done that. Ooh, that was got a little sloggy there at the end for me to get through. I apologize, but yeah, I guess Franco's saying he can buy they can buy the concept of Breath of the Wild being reality, but
Yep.
what happens when that one gets switched and reversed?
Yeah.
I mean, we've already dipped our toes in that universe with like an alternate timeline for Age of Calamity.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I think for now, Breath of the Wild's sacred. I'm cool with it being a concept of reality.
Yeah. And when, like, you got Link's Awakening, which is apparently a dream.
Yeah.
You have traveling through time in Ocarina,
Mm-hmm.
and another game that if you haven't played, but I don't necessarily want to mention. So
Which one? Well, you don't want to say it because it's
I
one
was
of your
gonna-
things for
I was
today.
gonna say Age of Calamity has
Oh.
some stuff going on with
Well,
that
Age
too.
of Calamity sets up a new timeline in the first 5 seconds of the game.
Yeah.
There's literally a Back to the Future 1985B moment, like in the
Oh,
first
yeah.
5
Yep.
seconds of the game.
Absolutely.
So that was the one thing about Age of Calamity. You're kind of like, oh, all of this didn't happen.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that, but
Yeah.
anyway. Okay, Shane. Top 10 most monumental moments. Top 10 monumental moments.
So just talking about Link's Awakening.
Mhm.
Now I wrote this one down. It is when Koholint Island disappears,
All right.
along with the friends you made. And I don't know if everyone knows this, but if you don't, if you beat the game without dying, there's an alternate ending where Marin, who you meet there, becomes a seagull,
Mhm.
where she had mentioned that she would like to be a seagull in the game.
There's a cutscene about halfway through where you and she
Yeah.
have a moment and she mentions it. You're right.
Yeah. So when you think about it, if that was supposed to be a dream, but she turns into a seagull at the end, could it be reality? And that was a kind of a monumental moment for me. And I didn't, playing it originally on the Game Boy, I didn't think about that. And I probably didn't beat the game without dying. But when I played the remake, that is one of the things I thought about.
Yes. All right.
So I'm like, that's kind of a very, very cool moment, thinking that, okay, the windfish disappeared, the island disappeared, all their friends disappeared, but now Marin could be a seagull now somewhere out in your world.
I think so. I think somehow I think the canon there is that she spiritually made it out. Link literally made it out.
Yep.
Corporally made it out. Corporally made it. That's hard to say that way. I don't think that's how that word works. But I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Or was Link eating too much chew jelly and he dreamed this all up and the seagull was there the whole time eating his leftovers? I don't know, but it's very interesting to me that that he
I like
you
this.
know just you don't die and that's like a bonus almost. So I don't know.
I think that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. I have we'll get to honorable mentions after. So that's kind of, you'd say maybe your fifth out of the, if we're going from low to high. I know you have more than five there.
I just went off of what we were just talking about. There's different
fair
ones, and hopefully I don't ruin any for some people, because some of these can ruin some of the games. But.
To be honest, I have more than five as well. One of them was the windfish reveal. But if you say any that, so I have my list of five, and then I have about 4 or 5 others as honorable mentions, because we both kind of accidentally picked about 10 items here and 10 things here.
Yeah.
But I did rate 5 of them, and I'm gonna go in that order.
Okay.
And then I'll do my honorable mentions at the end, I guess. So my fifth most monumental moment. So we're going up. So the lowest of these, but still certainly a monumental moment. A moment in Ocarina of Time, and it's the death of the Great Deku Tree. I think is a good moment.
That is, yes.
It's playing it as a kid, playing it as a teenager. You you as a kid, I remember getting a little sad. You see
Mhm.
the bark curl up and the leaves fall, and I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, this thing just died in front of me. I can't go back to this thing," which is
Yeah.
the whole point. A little bit of hero's journey there,
Yeah.
but like your mentor passes on. But I was sad. My sisters would watch me play the game, or when they would play the game, they would always get really sad at the Deku Tree dying moment. And not a lot happens, but because you realize that he's been poisoned, and poisoned with Ganon's or Ganondorf, I guess at that point, not malice, but
Yeah.
whatever. I don't even really know how he actually poisons the tree. I don't know if the tree
So,
actually says it.
I believe, if I remember right, he goes and asks the Great Deku Tree for the emerald,
Yes, that's
and
right.
he wouldn't give it to him, so he curses the Great Deku Tree, and the curse is Goma.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and then even though you get rid of Goma,
And
the tree's like, I'm
and
too far gone.
the Goma is pretty much a parasitic type
Yeah.
creature. So it eventually, if you think about it, it's like a tree rotting from the inside.
Inside Out.
So
Mm-hmm.
taking over the roots, and you know,
Okay, I like that interpretation. I believe that probably is exactly accurate.
mm,
Yeah, that's cool. Um, so I mean, I guess maybe there isn't much more to say about that, but I feel when I was thinking about monumental moments, I was thinking about some of them are reveals, some of them that I have are reveals,
yep,
some of them are just touch, impactful touch points that
yep,
happen in a narrative, and so for me, the Great Deku Tree fits into that.
yeah. Well, that's interesting. I'll just play off of the Ocarina of Time ones then,
Sure.
because I've got two from there that are
Oh.
different from those. One being that you find out Sheik is Zelda.
Uh huh.
That is like maybe some people saw it coming, but I think a good fair amount of people didn't expect that to be Zelda.
Yeah.
Um, and I just remember like her Sheik's eyes are different color,
Hmm.
so I always thought, okay, that can't be Zelda. And then she takes off her whatever that's called, Sheik robe
The
or
scarf thing. Yeah.
yeah, and
Her
it's her
Sheikah outfit.
Sheikah outfit. There we go. And it just was eye opening. You're like, oh my gosh, that's where you were. That's what you've been doing for 7 years since I've been gone. So
Yeah. There's a lot of good lore behind Sheik.
and that the 7 years is the other one is you lifting the master sword
Oh.
out of the resting place.
Oh my gosh, I don't have that anywhere in my list. That's a great one.
So yeah, you literally are gone for 7 years. And people speculate what you actually did in the 7 years. Where you just you just were sleeping. You were training.
I think
What were
Link
we
is
doing?
in suspended animation, but Link does still grow.
Yeah,
So maybe it's my interpretation, though it's not in canon, but like the equivalent of like hyperspace sleep.
yeah, and it's weird too because like then Link has earrings and
Yeah,
he
yeah.
how did he get that? That's another
You wrote a blog post
I
about that.
yeah. So check that out.
Yeah.
But it's
AnotherZeldaPodcast.com.
yes, but yeah, that's like another question I have. That's kind of a weird. Um, just you don't know much about it. Like what was he doing for 7 years? So it's good speculation.
I like that. I like that. Interesting. Well, then, okay. I guess I'm going to go to my fourth here, and my four is missing. Where is it? I've got one, two, three, and five, and I think I know. Oh, okay. Here's my four. All right. Yeah. I just didn't label it. I see it on my list. So I don't know. I hope this isn't too obvious, but it's lower on the list. Deku Tree is impactful.
Yeah.
But I think something that's monumental, technically monumental to the lore, is essentially the demise battle at the end of Skyward Sword.
Okay.
I wasn't like emotionally moved as much. I played it only recently, and I mean, demise was very intimidating, quite frankly,
Yeah.
an intimidating presence. But the fact that what happens with demise and Demise's proclamation of I will continue to essentially reincarnate or infuse myself into those who are worthy, aka future Ganondorfs or
Yeah.
Ganons, is technically sets the groundwork for every Ganon and Ganondorf based baddie through the series.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought about that one.
Yeah.
But I actually have 2 other ones from Skyward Sword that I wrote down.
Do you want to do those right now?
Yeah,
we're
because
kind
I'm
of building a top
combining them.
15, but let's just do it.
I'm kind of combining them so
yeah, they're like
just
one.
Put them
Yeah.
in there.
We're
But
technically supposed to build a list at the end of all this, but anyways,
yeah,
well, it's all good, Shane. Let's just flow with this.
absolutely. So one is that the elderly lady that guards the gate is Impa.
Yes.
And I didn't suspect it actually, and then when at the end you find out, okay, that is Impa. It's just cool to see how they designed her to be, wise and frail, and then her hair moves back and forth like a pendulum, like it's because of the time aspect, and just a real cool nod to Impa and
I didn't
how
notice.
she played it.
I'm so sorry I interrupted there a little bit, but I didn't notice until my recent play of Skyward Sword HD that, I mean, I knew they were both Impa. In fact, actually, the first time I played Skyward Sword, I came to old Impa. I thought, oh, cool, this is this game's version of Impa. She looks awesome. She looks awesome and old and whatever. And then I was kind of playing, and then young, giraffe Impa, teeny, really skinny, tall Impa, who's totally badass, if I may.
Yeah.
I remember her showing up and thinking like, oh, cool, that's this game's Impa.
Yeah.
And I didn't connect like, no, I've already met Impa. It wasn't until later I was like, wait a second, this has happened twice now. You know what I mean? Because there are times in Zelda games where Impa is an older lady, and there's times where Impa is like a young warrior.
Yep.
And I almost didn't notice that they were doing both of those in Skyward Sword until later on. I'm like, wait a second, I'm talking to the same person.
Yeah.
And I noticed this playthrough, I noticed that Impa has a white tear on her left cheek.
Yep.
And it's also can be seen on old Impa, and that's like a good tell.
Yeah. Which, now that you said it, I didn't really notice that.
I noticed it by accident about 2 weeks ago as of this recording.
Maybe it's the HD.
Like, honestly, it might be.
Yeah.
It might be the HD graphics.
So the other thing from that game is Fi, or however you say it, being the goddess sword or master sword, and Girahim being the demon sword.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I thought interesting was basically Hylia and Demise are pretty much God and a fallen angel type deal, and their swords represent their one's light with the Triforce up, one's down, meaning anti-Hylia, and it's kind of cool because it's a parallel. It clashes with each other. So I thought that was a really cool, but not knowing that they were swords until later on was really interesting. So
yeah, the original concept art for Skyward Sword showed Link not holding his sword, and Fi was like right there with him. So there was already an implication that she was something like his sword. But you're right; it certainly wasn't a spoiler. It didn't give it away or anything. I spoke to this in our Skyward Sword episode, but when Girahim kind of in the final time you battle Girahim, and he ends up kind of looking like Fi. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't get into it too much, but I thought that was cool. That's when you start making the connection, because he has his graphics change, and he has the same kind of glowy, glossy look as she does, but he's obviously dark, like black and gray colors and stuff like that. But I'm gonna go to my. Oh no, wait, you did technically kind of like your fourth just now.
Yeah.
I think we should go to break then.
Okay.
And come back and do 3, 2, 1. That's usually how we do these.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. Great. Well, I'll see you in a few minutes.
All right.
Hi, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Mike.
And we are brothers-in-law. We both love beer and are amateur home brewers.
Wait, so does that make us brothers-in-law?
I believe so.
Every episode, we will talk about aspects of beer and home brewing.
But nothing super technical, because we're learning this too.
So join us as we sit down together and dive into something beer-related.
Whether it's a little field research, tasting a certain beer style, or beers from a specific brewery.
Talk about our experiences brewing beer at home, including our own solo brews, as well as themed competitions we'll set up along the way.
We will also talk about some of our favorite aspects of brewing, like hops, extra ingredients, building our brew cave, and more. And of course, our own misadventures that have happened along the way.
So, if you like beer, are homebrewing already,
Or if you have an interest in home brewing and don't know where to start,
join us on Brothers-in-Law Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
and make sure to follow us on Twitter at Brothers-in-Law and check out our website, brothersinlaw.com.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome to our new podcast. Welcome to our new podcast.
This isn't working.
Agreed. I think we're going to have to do it turn by turn.
Well, now that you mention it, we are a brand new RPG video game podcast.
Our very existence hinges on turn-based gaming.
So join us on the Turn by Turn podcast, where we'll be talking about
Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Golden Sun, Shining Force, Mother, and so many more.
It's your turn to come and join us.
Hi everybody, David here. I just wanted to take a second to tell you about Another Zelda Podcast's brand new merch store. Yes, we've opened up the store to celebrate the beginning of Season 5. One of the shirts that was pretty popular this past Valentine's Day was a shirt designed by AZP blog writer and regular guest Shane Kelley. Now, he drew up a punny shirt where a like is eating a heart, and of course, the shirt asks, "Do you like me?" This one we also offer not only as a regular t-shirt, but also as a hoodie, so that's nice and cuddly. So if you're interested in displaying your Another Zelda Podcast fandom, head on over to our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com, and click on the merch tab in our main menu right up on the top of the screen there. All right, let's get back to the show. All right, we are back from the break. Shane, how about this? Why don't I go first with my third?
That works for me.
Therefore, as it is with these top
Then I
tens,
can
it allows you to
eliminate
go
some of
last.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll switch it up a little, and I'll do three. Yeah. My number three is Link transforming into a wolf.
Okay.
I literally typed "wolf transforms into a wolf" on my notes. That's why I misread that by accident. But Link transforming into a wolf was a monumental moment for me. I'm reading your face, and it seems like perhaps a little less so for you.
Well, I didn't think of that one actually, and I don't. Do you have any other Twilight Princess ones on your list?
I mean, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Then I'll save that one to hear your other one.
To see if it lines up.
But
it lines up.
I
Link. So now this was a monumental moment by the definition of it being something that this isn't a so like. I am not particularly affected by demise in his choices.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not a personal emotion, but like technically that's monumental because it sets the seeds for the Ganondorf stuff. Link, first time he transforms into a wolf, and it's the graphics and the scene, and it's almost a werewolf scene, and he screams and it comes out his face and everything like that. That was more of like a David Geisler emotional moment where I was like, dang.
And what's interesting, and I think this is the only time besides Link to the Past he turns into an animal, where he goes to the dark world and becomes a pink bunny.
Yeah.
So that, I guess, that's I want to say it's already been used, but it'd be cool to see him again turn into something in a future title. And what would that be? I'm not sure how it would fit in the story, but I think it's a really cool concept.
Well, back in episode 3, you and I talked a little bit about the Twilight Princess manga, along with some of the other mangas.
Yes.
And I'm a couple issues in, and I just want to tell you that the manga really deals with the wolf stuff in a nice way.
Okay.
Like the emotions. What kind of emotions does a human have when they're trapped in a wolf body, and vice versa? And it deals with it really well. But even
cool.
just that cutscene, that moment. Link turning into a wolf. That was a big one. That was good. I think for me that was even more exciting. I was trying to think of maybe another like cutscene moment, but I'll leave it at this.
Okay.
Yeah. The literal moment, the first. So it's not the fact that Link transforms into a wolf throughout all Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
It's that first time he does.
Yes.
Was cool to me. So I have
agree.
that in as my 3.
And he keeps his little blue earring.
Keeps that. Well, the earrings are very important.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So I still got a couple, but I think one that I find really interesting. And you haven't finished A Link Between Worlds,
No, I'm about halfway.
but if you want me to say
Are
this,
you
I
going to
will,
spoil something?
or I won't say it. It's up to you.
Well, here's the thing. We do our show as a spoilers show.
Okay.
We talk about things openly, and we've always talked about because we don't want to bog the show
Sure.
down in like, oh, who does know this little part, who does know that little part. I am comfortable speaking about A Link Between Worlds if there is some kind of big reveal, because the truth is, here in this moment, then I'll have those emotions.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So there's something I know about
So-
Hilda, but you said there's something later.
So
Apparently this is
this
your moment.
one, so Ravio, the
bunny guy.
yes, you find out later after you go
Is he
to the,
Ganondorf?
no, he is the doppelganger of Link. He looks
What?
He looks just like Link. He's trying to help Hilda by going to Hyrule to help or to give Link these items so that he will go and help Hilda, who at the end is
Like Dark
is
Zelda.
dark
Yeah.
Zelda, and it is kind of
Is Ravio Dark Link? Or is it a different Link?
it's different. It's a doppelganger of Link.
Does he have a different name? Is it like
I don't even remember
All right, no
if
problem.
it
I mean,
had
I
a
guess I'll
name,
have to learn.
But Hilda wants the Triforces, so she's not essentially evil. She just wants to look out for the Dark World
Interesting.
or Low Rule, I should say.
Yeah.
And the doppelganger doesn't want her to leave Hyrule without their Triforce and all their their side of it. It would make their lives miserable, and so he goes there to implore Link to help in a roundabout way
Ravio.
to help.
You
Yep.
know, does this new Link, does he have purple hair or something?
Not that I know.
I
of
was
him.
paging through the encyclopedia.
I think he has dark hair. He has
Dark
he
hair?
has
I
like
think
black
I
hair almost.
saw like a black or a dark haired Link as I was paging through the encyclopedia sometimes, but I don't read things first. A lot of times I see pictures and I keep on moving. I figured it was like a palette swap for something.
Mhm.
Maybe that's this
Maybe,
Dark Link
yeah.
guy. Okay, cool. So that was
Yeah.
a monumental moment.
It was, and then you have a nice little cutscene at the end of the game. So,
Ravio. So somehow Dark, we'll call him Dark Link. It's not Dark Link. It's not
yeah,
the Dark Link.
Low Rule Link.
Low Rule Link
Yeah.
somehow comes to Hyrule.
Yeah.
And we learn all that in the game.
And he doesn't
Okay, I'm
want
excited now.
he doesn't want to have Link know that it's pretty much him. So he dresses up like that to sell the items to help
Like the
him.
crazy rabbit guy.
Yeah.
And that rabbit, I mean, I'm calling it a rabbit, but you know what I mean. Ravio has a unique personality. Very unique. Some
Mhm.
might even say like a little annoying. And he wasn't too annoying for me, but like it's a definite personality. I wonder if that's low rule Link taking on an affectation or something. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? A little bit.
So the other thing that I thought interesting now with A Link to the Past, Link goes Dark World, he turns bunny.
Hmm.
He goes to Hyrule, wears a bunny costume.
Yeah. No, I think there's a connection there.
I do too.
I think they're the same color palette even.
He's purple and the other one's pink.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's
Close.
Yeah. But I really, that was a monumental moment, me connecting all the dots. It still leaves a lot of mystery, but rabbits and
I like this.
So I can't wait for you to finish it. Now I played all the way through A Link Between Worlds years ago,
Mhm.
but I never beat Yuga.
Oh, okay.
So last year I got to beat Yuga.
Yep.
And I did, and then I didn't know any of this, and I found all this out,
Because it happens at
and
the
I'm
end.
like, oh my gosh, yeah, it happens
Oh
after
my
the
gosh.
Yuga fight and everything.
All right, so I do think I'm like 4 dungeons. I think I'm coming up on. I either have done or I'm in the equivalent of like the Swamp Dungeon. I know you can kind of do them out of order, so I don't
Sure,
even really
yeah.
know if I'm going the right order or not. But I think I've done about 4 of them.
Okay.
I've been impressed with all the dungeons. I'm really impressed with the 3D-ness of
Yep.
A Link to the
And the whole him turning into the wall and
the
everything.
wall
is
thing's
just-
cool.
Yeah.
The wall thing's fine. I think like in the dungeons they handle the the 3D-ness.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the few games that I play where I
With
wonder if
3D
it
on.
wouldn't be as good in 2D.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm impressed with the game. Well, now this is I tell you what. So what's happened is I used to play it on like long car trips. We'd go down to Kentucky or something,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been kind of phasing back into Switch games. I'm going to start bringing my DS, and I'm going to get through it. This has given me fuel, not the opposite.
Good.
Cool. Ooh.
It's
Low
nice,
link.
it's nice to have that feeling of something you haven't discovered yet, and that's what I'm waiting for Majora's Mask to play, and me beating Zelda 2 last night.
That had to have been cool.
I have one. That's one of my monumental moments as well.
Oh, yeah?
What I'm gonna tell. It's
I have
probably
a-
my top one.
I have a guess of what it might be, only because I know from studying. But I'm not going to spoil it right now. We'll see.
Okay.
So my 2, for me. So I guess my 3 and 2 were very personal, and basically I had very personal experiences with Twilight Princess. Kate and I gush about Twilight Princess constantly on this show. Even though I don't think it's like the best Zelda anymore. It's when we started the
Correct.
show, I really
Yep.
thought it was the best Zelda.
Mhm.
Now I think it's just a great Zelda with a lot of other great ones. But for me, a very monumental moment, a very impactful, like whoa, I'm doing something, even surpassing the collapsing castle in Ocarina of Time,
Okay.
is the Ganondorf battle at the end of Twilight Princess.
So
What's
mine's
up?
different than the one yours. So I have another monumental moment. So this
For
will be
Twilight
good.
Princess.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm surprised actually. So
I just remember being a little bit from a game development point of view, being so impressed that like 5 or 6 different mechanics that you've learned throughout the game
Yeah.
were being used in the battle. They were being used in a way that made sense. Granted, I'm sure the battle was designed around using these things, but
Mhm.
as you're playing, you're like, yeah, of course I'm going to sumo wrestle this pig. Of course I'm going to be
That's awesome.
On horseback and being chased and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Of course I'm going to do some sword maneuvers with Ganon at the end. I thought it was so cool and so epic. My heart was racing the whole time, even more than the already pretty awesome and epic ending to Ocarina of Time.
I agree. I love that boss fight. That was some of the coolest, I guess, string together Ganondorf fights that I've played, and
Yeah.
even any of the other bosses, Vatty or some of the other bosses. That it just was. It was a nice step towards a long game that you've been playing and building up for. So
Absolutely. And I'd like to say one more thing about it. I'm not directly comparing it to Ocarina, and I'm not saying Ocarina is worse.
Yeah.
But in Ocarina and many other Zelda games, the phases of a boss fight might start they start small, then the boss gets crazier and bigger. The monkey gets madder,
Yep.
or the plant has split into 3 now, and things get bigger and bigger
Yep.
and bigger.
you have more eyes.
Yeah, and certainly that happens in the Ocarina of Time Ganondorf battle. You
Yeah,
fight
yeah.
Ganondorf and you do all the stuff, and then Ganon reveals, and that is an awesome moment. But something that I think
Yes.
is really interesting to note about Twilight Princess is that it's kind of technically in reverse. It's really like you're dealing with you're dealing with evil or not evil Princess Zelda, but possessed Princess Zelda.
Yep.
And then you're dealing with the big pig, and it basically like it kind of gets more intimate as you go,
Yep.
but somehow feels more epic. So at the end, you're just sword fighting Ganon, but it feels like a climax, not the other way around. And I
Yes.
think that was well done.
I agree.
Yeah. So what's your Twilight Princess? What's
So-
your 2?
I have basically Midnight's Farewell.
Oh yeah, that's
So, she turns into a human-like form of her Twilight Princess
good.
form.
Yeah.
And then if that's not like epic enough, it's she then breaks the mirror, and basically the mirror transports her between that world and this world.
Mhm.
And now that the mirror is broken, no one can no longer transpose through that mirror.
Yeah, we'll glue it back together. I'm just joking.
Yeah, puzzle pieces,
Mhm.
They should make a puzzle that's the mirror. They got to put it back together.
Wasn't the mirror slightly homaged in Breath of the Wild when you found some pieces over on that beach? Was that the same mirror, or am I conflating
not
that?
sure.
There was
I bet you it was,
there was like a broken
Oh,
disc that you
there
could
was.
find
I remember
3 pieces,
that.
put them together. I don't know if it was really a mirror, but I'm just saying.
There were so
Milda,
many
Breath
things in
Milda.
Breath of the Wild that just were I think, so monumental that I didn't write any of them down from it because there's just too many to mention.
That's a really good point. I don't have any Breath of the Wild on here either. It's in its other category, its own category.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, that was I really enjoyed that last cutscene, especially when she goes, "Do you have no words for me, Link? Because I'm so beautiful," and he just is like stunned, and he doesn't talk anyway, so it's kind of funny. Like he was gonna say something, so I was expecting for him to say something at that moment, just to change it up.
Well, I also liked that she still had a little bit of that sass, that Midna Imp sassiness.
Yes,
was still there with that comment, which was always kind of fun. Boy, oh boy, yeah, that's good. Well, we're kind of flying along, but I have a lot of honorable mentions too.
I do too. So we can do the honorable mentions, and then we both can do our last one then. So.
Oh, interesting. I like that. I like that a lot. What is this? Watch Mojo?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love this format. Okay, let's do it. I was going to go to one and then do the honorable mentions. So let's see. Some of my others. So one of my honorable mentions was, I do have a end of episode honorable mention. The Windfish reveal.
Okay. Was
one of mine. I marked it off when you said yours. The Dark World reveal in A Link to the Past.
Yep.
Was so monumental that as a younger kid, I stopped playing the game at that point.
I remember the episode you said that, and I'm like, that was the point where I'm like, now I've got a whole new world to explore, basically. So I kept going.
Yeah, it was for me. I was like, no. I guess So in Ocarina of Time, when you go forward in time and things are dire, that's around the time that. So I've spoken many times about how I played Ocarina of Time and my sisters would watch, and each of my sisters, one who's 2 years younger than me and one who's 7 years younger than me, also played a little bit of Zelda.
Okay.
But both of them pretty much stopped after becoming 14-year-old Link.
Oh, okay.
Because at that point, when they come into the desolate atmosphere, it's so dire, that for them it was like, well, I don't know if I'm optioning that they thought. I can't speak for them. They were playing the game casually anyway, and now everything's really crappy for a couple hours, so to speak, aesthetically. Yeah. You know what I mean? Things don't really start picking up until you get through that forest dungeon. You start making sense of it all. Unfortunately, I had that experience with the Dark World with A Link to the Past, but playing it as an adult, it was kind of like, more to explore.
That's how Link was it Link's Adventure Link? I always mix that up. But yeah, that was how it was for me. I played when I was 5, so that probably had a bigger impact on me than me playing something when I was 10.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
So yeah, I literally did not play it again till earlier this month.
And you're talking about Ocarina? No, Zelda 2.
Zelda 2.
Yeah.
That's I have not played it since I was 5.
I always want to say Link's Adventure as well because it sounds like Link's Awakening, but it is the adventure of Link.
So 31 years have passed, and I have played it and beat it.
When did you pick it back up? A few weeks ago?
A few weeks ago. At the beginning of the month, I started playing it.
Wow, that's as of this recording, that's like 22 days ago or something. 21 days ago?
20 days, yeah. I might have started it December 31st, but
You played and beat Zelda 2 within 20 days. You must have really been going for it.
I was lurking all over it, and that rewind thing was savior.
Oh, yeah.
But I did look up a few things, and I would have not have beaten this game if I hadn't looked up some stuff. So
I don't use rewind on anything yet on the Switch Online stuff. I use the save states like crazy, but I haven't used rewind at all yet. Maybe I should incorporate that as a strategy a little bit. I know Kate rewound A Link to the Past constantly when we did our Link to the Past review episode.
Yeah, I did it a few times with just not really the boss fights, but just when I'm walking between caverns and stuff. If I don't have life by the time I get there, I'm not going to make it. So I see. So
interesting.
Did you have any more honorable mentions?
Yeah, I think I do. Let me look here. Oh, actually, I guess I don't. I've got one more, but I want to save it for after our ones.
Okay. Well, I've got 2.
Yeah, sure.
Both are from Wind Waker. One is the discovering Hyrule under the ocean, frozen in time with like the dull color palette.
That was cool.
It just was. I thought it was a very serene scene. That it was the devastation that happened, but it just it was like you were at a wake, and there's just solemn silence. What Link is already just quiet. So it seemed pretty monumental as you walk up to the Hyrule Castle and just saw it
I agree completely.
frozen, basically.
Yeah.
And the other thing is also from Wind Waker, which is a blade to Ganondorf's cranium.
So that I almost put that on my list. But I already had the Ganondorf and Twilight Princess thing.
It's so weird. For me, it's another parallel where you have this cartoony game art style, but it had such a gruesome
Yes.
finishing blow
Yes.
to the main bad guy, and then it kind of references the sword and the stone because the sword goes into his skull literally, and he turns to stone, and your master sword's coming out of the head there.
Yes.
And that was another just like, what did I just do?
Graphically, there isn't any blood, and like graphically, there isn't, I guess, literal violence, but what's being represented in an abstract way is hyper violent.
Yeah.
It took me back when it happened. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
is this what happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little bit like the kind of thing where maybe if a kid saw it, they wouldn't fully register it. There's that kind of thing. You know what I mean? But
and maybe this crossed my mind too. Maybe they did it that way in this cartoonish style because it kind of pulls away from the violence of it.
I agree.
Maybe it's like turning blood mode off of Mortal Kombat.
I agree completely.
So
imagine this moment in Twilight Princess. The game would have gone from teen to mature.
Yeah, absolutely, and just I don't know. As I think I was probably, I want to say I was either late high school or early college, playing that game.
Yeah.
So, to me, it affected me watching that, and I just couldn't imagine like a kid playing it and seeing it, but maybe again with that the illusion of this childlike art style, his eyes, and just this playful Link. It just didn't register.
Well, it's the Stormtrooper effect. It's like, in those early Star Wars movies that were PG, Stormtroopers can get, 15 of them can get shot off a cliff or something, but they don't show blood.
Yeah.
So then it can be G-rated, I guess, or whatever, and the kids aren't as, because there's no proof that creature is dead.
Yeah.
It's,
And ultimately, every game you want to defeat the bad guy, so it's like maybe you go immediately. Well, I got to defeat this guy because he's going to,
So almost 2 years ago, over on the Studio Demands It show, TC and I crafted a sequel video game, not a movie, to this moment that we're talking about right now.
I think I
it was called, the episode was called, it was a long time ago, it was about 2 years ago, or not a long time ago, but it was, it was quite a while ago. And I think it was called The Legend of Zelda 3000. The request, their show does like requests for story building, and then they build a story, and I was on as a guest. And the request, they usually do films, but the request was, can you make a Zelda game with X, Y, and Z variables? And it came to be that we actually had our starting point being Link finding that sword in the stone statue of Ganondorf.
Oh, that's really, yeah.
And
I
that's
do
where the
remember
story
this
started.
now. Yeah.
So anyways, I don't know. Yeah, okay. I guess
That's
you've heard
really
that episode.
cool.
I was going to say go listen to it because it was one of the most, it was the kind of episode when we were done brainstorming it, I was like, oh my gosh, I want this game.
Yeah.
It was a collaborative of neither he or I could have come up with it alone. And at the end of that episode, I was like, oh my gosh, that was great ideas were made in that thought experiment. But anyways, so there was this, so we actually kind of referenced the Sword in the Stone reference that you're talking about in reverse. So Link finds what he thinks is a statue of Ganondorf with a sword in it. But anyways, so let's do our firsts. I'll go to my first, and it's actually going to be a little underwhelming with the way this episode has gone. But my number one was Sheik.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was actually the first thing I think you said in the episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, mark that off.
Yeah, sorry.
No, please, it's fine. It's fine. But I think that's like I think if you talk about monumental moments in the Zelda franchise, no one would argue that Sheik, the Sheik situation, the Sheik storyline, the Sheik reveal, Sheik's existence was monumental.
Yeah.
Is a big one. If people think about big moments in Zelda lore.
And I like to relive that moment through other people. I watch on YouTube people playing this game. and they'll record their like reactions, and you're
Oh.
like, that's how I felt. That's how I felt. And
Nice.
you know, you can't get that back, but it's just cool for you to see other people also then realize, okay, this is Zelda.
Yeah.
So
Because if I think the natural order, people have a bunch of different interpretations, I'm sure. But at first you're like, is Sheik a bad person? I think. And then
Yeah.
you kind of start realizing, okay, I'm going to trust this character, and then it goes another step. There's a whole gradient there of what Sheik actually
Yeah.
is, and that's super cool. What might you have as your kind of
okay, so
top experience here?
the Adventure of Link. I guess I didn't really realize this because not playing it before.
This is what you teased back in episode 3.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last time you were on the show.
Yes. Okay. So, that was so long ago. I don't remember. But basically, you get your magic spells in this game, and
Okay, yeah.
so as you're getting your spells, you get more of them. I forgot what
I
the
think you
entire.
get, like, jump first.
Yeah,
and
I think it's
then
shield,
then
then
jump.
jump,
Yeah.
and
And I haven't made it past that.
okay, so and then this is where it kind of got interesting. I'm like, as I got more spells, I was thinking, you know, I've seen these spells before. I've encountered these, and so I was looking up online, and some other people have come to this realization too, is jump equals Rivali's Gale, life equals Mifa's Grace.
Oh my gosh.
Reflect equals Daruk's protection, and thunder equals Ubosa's fury. So the spells are literally in Zelda 2 that all 4 champions have,
Wow.
and it blew my mind. And I'm like, I just thought this was random. Like, okay, give them a cool spell. It actually is in the game from 1987, 89.
That's so cool.
Whatever
It almost makes you wonder if the development team for Breath of the Wild went back to that source to see how they would, when they're looking for inspiration for, I guess, power-ups or whatever.
Yeah.
They kind of, so the Adventure of Link is becoming famous as a source of inspiration for future Zelda games.
Yes.
The developers of many of the different Zelda games, be it just the teams or the actual producers or whatever, often speak about going back to Zelda 2.
Yeah. It started connecting with me. When I saw like 2 of them, I'm like jump, and I saw the, was it the life? I'm like, okay, makes sense. And then when I saw reflect and thunder, I'm like, okay, there's something here. And you only use thunder for the one of the last boss fights.
Okay, now is this that moment that you didn't have it or something? Before we were recording, you mentioned that you had to go back for something.
Okay, so
is this different?
This is slightly different. So to get the thunder spell is kind of hard. So I went to this secret village.
Mm-hmm.
After I went to another village that said all the people moved to the forest because it got attacked.
Okay.
So I go to this forest, and you have to clear the trees, and then finally you find the town.
Okay.
So you go in the town. There's a lady, and she goes, have you found the seven containers?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I guess not. And then I went to another house, and it said, come back to me when you're ready. I'm like, okay. So I had to look this up, but there's containers for magic around that you have to get, and I didn't know this, and I actually missed the one in the beginning, so I had to walk.
Was it the tree? The one under the tree?
No, it's like there's a dungeon in the middle of a sea lake. You can go out, and then below it is a cave, and right in that cave there's one of these containers.
Oh my gosh!
You fight 4 enemies and you get it. So I had to walk all the way back through all this stuff, and it's not inherently long once you know the way.
Yeah.
But you have to encounter all the enemies there and back.
Mm-hmm.
So once I get all the way back, she goes, okay, you can have the container, or come to my house. You get the 8th container or whatever it is, or 7th container.
Yeah.
Then you can go talk to the guy. He gives you a he gives you a spell. The spell, then you have to go to a area outside of town, and it summons a cave. You go in the cave, you get the master key, or boss key or master key. Then you go all the way down to a dungeon. That key opens the dungeon, so you can go in it. You defeat the dungeon, then you go back to the town that was destroyed, and the guy that told you to go to the other town gives you the thunder spell. Then you can continue on to the big mountain pass up to the final boss.
I mean, awesome.
Well,
it's kind of cool,
hard.
but wow.
It makes sense. If you've never played it before, that was so hard. Like I didn't know where anything was. I'm like, oh man. And last night I wanted to beat it before I did this podcast.
Oh wow, so you're pushing last night.
So I was pushing last night, and I'm like, oh, I should be almost done, and then I'm like, I can't find this container.
You did all this backtrack stuff just last night?
I did all that backtrack stuff last night from like 7:30 to I went to bed at 11, and then I got up for work at 4. So
oh my goodness!
But yeah, it was worth it. So yeah, that's one of my monumental moments with that game and connecting the dots with Breath of the Wild. So
wow, that's something. Okay, cool. So I think we've got. So for me, I had the Death of the Great Deku Tree, and then Demise.
Yeah,
Demise's decision, I guess you could say. Then the Link transforming into a wolf. Then it was the Ganondorf battle in Twilight Princess, and Sheik, all of Sheik as my number one.
Okay.
What were I know you?
Mine were like
more.
the Link's Awakening with the seagull, and then I believe talked about the Ocarina of Time stuff, the Sheik and the 7 Years Master Sword.
Yeah.
And then I believe I talked about the was it Skyward Sword stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Then I went to the Link Between Worlds. And then I talked about the Twilight Princess.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's dark behind me, that's why.
I think that's what's up. Anyway.
And then then I talked about the Wind Waker stuff, bonus stuff, and then Venture Link.
I love it. I love it. So that's
good variety there.
That's a lot of variety for our top 10 monumental moments. And I have one honorable mention that's outside of canon. I mean, you probably know what it is already. There's something that I think cannot be denied, and it was the reaction at E3 to the Twilight Princess trailer.
Yes.
And I actually have a video of it here. I'm going to play the audio for us so you can see it.
Perfect.
And then I'll redub the audio. I'll put it in proper when we post the episode. So
okay.
The context for anyone who doesn't know, maybe there are some people listening that didn't really know what was going on after Wind Waker and going into Twilight Princess. But Wind Waker came out and it was successful, but the fans were really clamoring for kind of something closer to the Ocarina of Time aesthetic.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any talk about it. And in 2000, I don't even know what year it was. But anyways, so also this is in a time during the GameCube. I loved the games on the GameCube personally.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite systems.
One of my favorites too, and absolutely one of my favorite controllers. But a lot of the GameCube games asked fans of certain franchises to stretch a little bit. Metroid asked fans to stretch into first person.
Yeah.
Zelda asked fans to stretch into something more cartoony. Technically, Mario asked fans to stretch into something slightly more realistic. All of a sudden, Mario had the water pack.
Flood.
He had like actual realistic looking jeans and stuff like that. Star Fox tried a couple different things. Star Fox Adventures
was amazing.
I actually like Star Fox Adventures. I think it's a little rough around the edges, but I like it.
Good soundtrack.
Yeah, that's true. I think Star Fox Adventures is we might have to do a Kami first, but I think Star Trek.
Oh, Kami's in my top 5 games of all time. Love that game.
Maybe we make sure that you're on that episode. That might be like a season 6 thing, but
that's fine.
All right. Because I have it on the Switch right now, and I think I can talk Kate into playing it on the Switch. We'll see. All right. So anyway, here I'm going to play the audio only of the. So this is at the end of the E3 presentation. This is Nintendo doing their "and one more thing" moment.
Thank you, Mr. Iwata. I hope you've all enjoyed our program this morning. But before you leave, I'd like you to step inside one more world for Nintendo GameCube.
So anyway, people are losing their minds. That kind of cheering doesn't happen often at E3 events.
It doesn't, and that exact trailer. I was in high school. I watched it, and that was the exact moment that I wanted to go to E3. That I knew I wanted to go.
Yes.
And I did go.
How many years did it take?
5,
6? Oh, maybe 10?
A lot more. I went in 2016.
There you go.
So I was in high school, and I graduated in 2004.
Right.
So it was at least 12, 13 years. So
I remember watching this video and thinking, oh my gosh, because but basically it came at a time I was speaking to how like the GameCube games were great, but they stretched all their franchises. This was a situation, even though we would learn later that Twilight Princess had a lot of unconventional Zelda things, even with the Midna and the Twilight, the Wolf, all of that. It was not a Ocarina clone, but it kind of looked like one.
Yes.
And it was exactly what the fans wanted at that moment, and they weren't expecting it, and they dropped this thing. Nintendo dropped it like rock stars back whenever that was. I don't even know, 2014 or something. I don't know. And so that was like, I think for me as a Zelda fan, way before ever doing this show, that was a moment where I was like, what is happening? My mind was blown. My mind was blown.
And the only other time I've had that is watching the Breath of the Wild trailer when you come in over the water and it shows the land, and then that was
such a good trailer.
Did
you see that at E3? Or?
That I did not see at E3.
Because I thought you were at the Breath of the Wild E3.
I was at the Breath of the Wild E3.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But I might have been sitting there watching it. I think maybe I was. I just know we were waiting to go in, and the digital event started, and everyone had their phones on, and I don't know if I just watched bits and pieces of it, but I was so excited to go to that showcase floor.
Because you saw the whole layout. They basically took a whole room and transformed it into the Breath of the Wild aesthetic.
Yes, it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Oh, so cool. So cool. So I mean, maybe even that's a monumental moment.
I could have included that.
Well,
I should have included
it. These were outside of the Zelda. We went Zelda story.
Yeah.
We went Zelda stories or whatever, or lore. Yeah. Anyways, awesome. I noticed one more thing on the Zelda title graphic that they showed in that trailer. It was the Ocarina of Time shield. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah, I did see that. It must have been that early.
It was right. It was that early. They probably didn't have a name yet or anything. Cool. Now the Twilight Princess was built on the Wind Waker engine, which is nuts.
That boggles my mind. That's the same engine.
I know, it's true. Anyways. Okay, Shane, this was a blast.
I know.
Before I drive back down to Chicago, you and I are going to go. I think you've got a local pub in the area that we're going to go explore.
Yep.
And I hear the cheese curds are where it's at for this pub.
Yeah, something with raspberry jam and I don't know what else is in there, but it's pretty good.
We're in Wisconsin. We're going to do it.
Yep.
I love it. Thank you so much. So if people want to find you, I'm very much looking forward to this feast. But if people want to find you on the internet, where can they do that?
You can find me on Twitter at Still Saying Shane. Also, my writing and now podcasts at Another Zelda podcast. Sorry. And I'm also on Boss Rush Network, where I write articles there and I participate in the podcast as well.
Another Zelda podcast, you write about Zelda things only, but over at Boss Rush, you're able to write about anything you want.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So long as it deals with video games or media.
Any standouts over there that maybe people should go check out?
I just did a recent one that pretty much goes through how I track my games for completion list.
Yeah.
And I use Excel, and how it basically is therapeutic. And you should check it out. I'll have to put the link up.
But you send it to me and I'll have it in the show notes by the time this thing goes up.
Yeah, that would be great. It's an amazing article in my opinion. So
awesome, great, cool. People can find me on Instagram and Twitter at RaptorPaint. You can find the show on Instagram at Another Zelda Podcast and on Twitter at Another Zelda Pod. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Discord. I don't know, other things. Oh, we're over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. Just search Another Zelda Podcast. Apparently, you only need to search Zelda Podcast on the podcast aggregators, and we definitely show up. And for anything else, all of our blog posts and other episodes, go to anotherzeldapodcast.com, where we have all that fun stuff there. It seems like you have one more thing to say.
I was going to say it's called Building a Better You Through Your Backlog.
Ooh, I like it.
So,
So just search that or go to Boss
yep,
Russian
Boss Russian
into their
Network.
search.
Yep.
Building a better you through your backlog.
Yep.
Love it. Shane, this was great again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I look forward to the next time. I think the next time I got to try to get you to Chicago for like a group episode
Yeah,
or something.
I'll have to try doing that. Yeah,
All right,
that'd be
cool.
fun.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, until then, I guess I'll see you later.
Okay, bye.